Tonight, the president's dilemma.
I think it's time for America to turn the page.
Biden's uphill battle to convince voters in his own party he deserves the Democratic presidential nomination. Plus, California drought meets tropical storm Hilary.
We are flooded.
Southern California faces torrential rains, flash flooding, and an earthquake. And let's talk to them.
I was going to attack either my school or a mall food court. It really didn't matter to me which one.
The Christian ministry working to prevent mass shootings. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. President Biden campaigns to keep his job. Good evening in Washington. I'm Jenna Browder. We are just 2 days away from the first Republican presidential debate. And while we're watching that closely this week, the current president is also in the race, and he too will have to contend with challengers from within his own party. And while Democratic leaders are in Joe Biden's corner, polling shows voters aren't so sure. White House correspondent Abigail Robertson has our top story from Iowa.
While President Biden has the full support of the Democratic National Committee, that isn't stopping primary hopefuls Marianne Williamson and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from campaigning across the country, including here in Iowa, as they try to shake things up for 2024.
Today, 57% of the people in this country are not making enough money to pay for basic human needs. That's food, shelter, and transportation.
The latest Quinnipiac poll has Williamson polling at 9% and Kennedy at 13%, with the incumbent president dominating the field at 72%.
I think it's time for America to turn the page. I think it's time for America to begin again.
While a sizable crowd gathered to hear Williamson.
She has a really cool history and just seems to be very liberal and open-minded, so I'd like to learn more about her.
Voters appeared eager to meet Kennedy.
I think he's got a real shot. I think a lot of people in our country really have had this feeling that there's a truth out there that has been inaccessible to a lot of us, and I think he's talking about it finally. He's giving us some insight into the way things are really run.
Kennedy supporters told CBN News they appreciate his unifying message in opposition to U.S. involvement in the ongoing war in Ukraine.
I think he's the candidate who is most opposed to continuing the war machine, and I think that he's an honest broker when he speaks to his public. I've never felt like he's lied to me.
I appreciate his approach in unification and harmony. I'm thinking outside of the box. I think Americans are really tired of divisiveness. The drama's exhausting.
Kennedy is widely viewed as a fringe, anti-vaccine candidate who's seen social media platforms pull his videos and flag him for spreading misinformation. Yet his questions about COVID and the vaccine seem to be resonating with a handful of voters, including former Republicans.
I think Trump dropped the ball a little bit in 2020 with the whole COVID thing, with Fauci and the lockdowns. I think that was, I don't think that was a good call. He doesn't admit any mistakes. And I think that was a mistake, and that's why I switched over to Kennedy.
I really think this is the right way. I'm excited what he's doing and happy to support him. And I used to be a conservative.
Both Williamson and Kennedy supporters are discouraged the Democrat Party machine is already fully behind Biden.
You know, I think Joe Biden has done some good things for the country, but I would also like to see some newer, younger candidates.
I think he's too old.
A recent USA Today Suffolk poll shows 8 in 10 Democratic primary voters want to see President Biden debate his opponents.
We should welcome debates. You know, conversations, debating one another is where truth is found and where new ideas are birthed. And when there's not a debate, we don't have the opportunity to do that.
President Biden is one of the only 2024 candidates from either party to skip the Iowa State Fair this year. And thus far, his presence on the campaign trail has been sparse. Reporting from Iowa, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Abigail. And with that, let's bring in Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections and a Faith Nation contributor. Nathan, welcome. So we heard a lot of the man on the street there. What do you think? Do any of these Democratic challengers stand a shot against President Joe Biden?
The short answer is no, Jenna. Right now, the Democrats either they're behind Joe Biden because they like what he's done and they believe in a second term, or they might have concerns about Biden, but they don't believe that there's a viable alternative. And right now, Kennedy and Williamson, to the vast majority of Democrats, are not a viable alternative. Now, Biden still has his challenges in the general election. He's an incumbent president of the United States at a time when a majority of Americans believe the country's headed off on the wrong track. They're concerned about his age. Maybe any good economic news has not seeped in at the ground level. And so this is going to be a very competitive general election race for the president.
Yeah. Let's talk about the GOP. The latest polling shows former President Trump leaps and bounds ahead of all of his opponents, most notably Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He's skipping out, though, on the debate this week. Is this an opportunity, Nathan, for another candidate to have a real breakthrough moment?
Well, first of all, Jenna, I'll believe it when I see it that he's not on that stage. We still have a couple of days. He could change his mind. You know, he loves the suspense and leaving people, will he or won't he? And for him to cede the spotlight to a whole stage of candidates, that's not in his nature. Now, he could think that he's above the field and so far ahead that he doesn't need to do it. And this could give candidates an opportunity. It'll be interesting to see how many of them attack Trump, because so far, really, former Governor Chris Christie is the only one who's been explicitly taking him head on. But if other candidates decide to take on Trump and he's not there to defend himself immediately, then that could have an impact. But what we're more likely to see is have candidates attacking each other, the ones that are on the stage, and that probably helps Trump because he continues to be the front runner and no one's trying to take him down.
Nathan, who are you keeping an eye on in this debate? Is there someone who you think might be more likely than the others to get some attention, a big boost out of this?
Well, I think we have to watch Governor DeSantis. I mean, he came into the race with such high expectations and has yet to meet those expectations. And we also know that his consultant put some of the debate prep documents online that the New York Times found, and we'll see how much he follows those and whether someone like Chris Christie attacks him for following those tips from his consultant. And I think we also have to watch Ramaswamy, because he has done better maybe than expected here at this early point in the race, and see how candidates take him on. Governor DeSantis sees him as a threat, as the trying to be the top non-Trump candidate. But it's going to be, this is actually a real debate that we can watch and chew over, and I think it's going to be must-watch television.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be watching with popcorn in hand. Nathan Gonzalez of Inside Elections, thank you. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you, Jenna.
Out west, Tropical Storm Hilary remains a significant threat as it moves inland. Flash flooding and high winds are major concerns, and some desert areas reportedly receiving 6 months' worth of rain in just 6 hours. Caitlin Burke joins us with the latest. Caitlin, when's the last time the West Coast saw something like this?
Jenna, National Weather Service experts say this storm is unprecedented. The last time a tropical storm made landfall in Southern California was 84 years ago, before there was a system for naming storms.
We are expecting a rare and dangerous rainfall event with significant flash flooding, river flooding, mudslides, and debris flows.
So far, that's exactly what it's been. From California to Nevada, millions of Americans are under flood warnings. In Los Angeles, several lanes of the 101 freeway flooded. This video captures water surging through a Las Vegas parking facility. And here, a driver barely escapes a dangerous mudslide. The heavy rain and desert climate of the region making for a bad combination.
We're not used to this level of precipitation generally, certainly not in the middle of summer in August. We're not built for this kind of rainfall.
Places like Palm Springs, California, receiving more than half its annual rainfall on Sunday alone. Schools and businesses across the Golden State closed today.
Stay safe, stay informed, and stay home.
In the middle of the storm, a 5.1 magnitude earthquake struck just about 80 miles from L.A., heightening tensions for already nervous residents there.
This is the first time we've had a magnitude 5 since 1932 in exactly this location.
Experts say the storm and quake are totally unrelated. Meanwhile, both California and Nevada now under a state of emergency, and thousands are without power. San Diego Gas and Electric warning customers turning the lights back on could take longer than normal.
All the flooding can cause us to not be able to get in and have access to some of these areas. and some of these wind conditions, we may not be able to get our line people up in our bucket trucks.
President Biden says he's deployed federal resources to assist California and Nevada. As the remnants of Hilary move through the West today, weather experts warn the weakened storm system will still be dangerous. High wind warnings and flood watches now affect inland as well. Jenna?
All right, Caitlin, thank you. President Biden is in Hawaii tonight, visiting the areas hardest hit by the deadly Lahaina wildfires. The president is meeting with first responders, says cleanup and recovery efforts continue. Nearly 2 weeks after the fire, the president's visit comes as workers continue to search for the missing. More than 800 people are still unaccounted for. Some 115 people have already been confirmed dead. And for survivors, basic necessities are hard to come by in Maui. Water is contaminated. CBN's Operation Blessing is on the ground there, helping to provide clean drinking water.
We have water filtration units that clean that water. So we took those filtration units to that community center. And then the people at the community center are going to take those filters and bring them into areas in Lahaina so that many families can now have access to good, clean drinking water.
And for more on how you can help wildfire recovery in Hawaii, please visit ob.org. Up next, stopping mass shooting killers before they pull the trigger. How a new program is helping to curb the nation's epidemic of violence. Welcome back. Lawmakers in Tennessee kicked off a special session today focused on public safety and mental health. The governor called for the special session after Nashville's Covenant Christian School shooting, which left 3 children and 3 adults dead. That was just one of many shootings this year in the U.S. So far this year, mass killings are at their highest rate in 17 years. Most attackers are young people struggling with mental and emotional issues who research their plans on the internet. Now, an online ministry is using high-tech search tools to identify potential shooters and connect them with the help they need. As CBN's Brody Carter reports, the goal is to redirect their path before they pick up a gun.
Given the staggering growth of these violent deaths, national leaders and experts often find themselves dealing with aftermath rather than planning on prevention. One of the more frightening statistics is the number of deadly mass shootings carried out by somebody 21 or younger. That's become a focus for the Let's Talk to Them initiative.
We believe that individuals who are both suicidal and have some deep-seated anger, maybe hatred, maybe vengeance, probably at some point will contemplate a mass shooting.
It's a morbid connection that suicide and homicide are the second and third leading causes of death for those between the ages of 10 and 24.
I think that a lot of people are looking for a mental health solution without necessarily knowing what that mental health solution is.
Jordan Estrada is certainly familiar with the issue as a first responder, spending the last 15 years helping organizations put together active shooter response plans. Using that background and experience, he wants to focus on prevention by connecting potential killers with those willing and able to help.
So Let's Talk to Them is a new initiative that is attempting to reach potential mass shooters, individuals who might be ideating or planning a mass shooting with a message of deterrence and redirection onto a better path.
Let's Talk to Them started in 2020 following the back-to-back tragedies in Uvalde, Texas and Buffalo, New York. In those cases, both shooters bought their weapons after turning 18 and used social media as their sounding board.
If somebody Googles or searches for any word relating to suicide, they have a response of websites to click into and phone numbers to call 24 hours a day.
Ken Churchill started Talent Adventures to help fund initiatives improving societal health like Let's Talk to Them. In this case, he points out how big tech search engine optimization on the topic of self-harm can provide help for anyone browsing the internet with self-destructive thoughts or questions. Compare that to search results on statements like, "I want to commit a mass shooting," where there's not one link to help. Instead, you can find step-by-step instructions on how to carry out a mass shooting in Google's top 3 results.
And while they're searching for that, we could be searching for them and reach out to them, try to create a connection, try to engage them, and give them thoughts about other paths.
I was going to attack either my school or a mall food court. really didn't matter to me which one. It wasn't about the people. It was about the largest amount of damage in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of security.
During a TEDx talk, Aaron Stark shares how he strongly considered mass murder until help from a friend stopped his plans. Today, Stark helps Estrada and Churchill try to better understand that mindset. The team is searching for content, media, blogs, and videos that might speak to anyone contemplating mass violence.
We want to make sure that it connects with the mindset of these individuals in a way that does not encourage or incite them to continue, but rather de-escalates them, calms them down, gets them to pause, gets them to think.
Let'sTalkToThem.com is the introduction page. It shares their vision to help. However, an undisclosed dark web page is now fully operational, connecting potential mass shooters with redirectional content and chat features.
At this point, are engaging with them and encouraging them to hit buttons on our website that make a phone call to 988, the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. But it's their choice to do the connection. The second thing that we have on the website currently is a live human 24-hour-a-day chat feature where specialists, particularly in suicide and other types of harm, these are Christian people, that they could choose to be in a chat. It's offered on our website.
The organization says this isn't about surveillance or espionage. Instead, the goal is to be a light shining into the dark corners of the web. Each situation varies, however, so police could potentially get involved. Estrada says the reason behind his decision to help is because God's love is for everyone, even some capable of committing mass violence.
Not only are we trying to prevent this horrific act from happening, we're also trying to reach out and save and redeem that individual themselves with the belief that, you know, every life is sacred.
I do believe hope is a full-throated acknowledgement of the reality of sin and its effects in the world in the view of a resurrected Christ. And Let's Talk to Them brings hope to people.
Brody Carter, CBN News.
Thank you, Brody. Attacks against Christians in Israel. Up next, how the Holy Land is responding to the targeted violence. Israel is facing a growing wave of violence. A Palestinian is suspected in an attack today, killing an Israeli woman and seriously injuring a man in the West Bank. This as Israeli forces continue searching for another suspected Palestinian gunman who killed a father and son in the territory Saturday. The West Bank is seeing the worst fighting between Israelis and Palestinians in nearly 20 years. Meanwhile, there's rising concern in Israel over a recent surge in attacks on clergy and vandalism at Christian sites. Believers in Jerusalem's Old City say they've repeatedly been targeted. So how are Christian leaders responding? Julie Stahl brings us that story.
The situation led Israeli President Isaac Herzog and Police Commissioner Yaakov Shabtai to meet leaders of the Orthodox and Catholic churches of the Holy Land.
In recent months, we've seen very serious phenomena towards the Christian denominations in the Holy Land. Our brothers and sisters, Christian citizens, feel attacked in their places of prayer, in their cemeteries, and on the streets.
Christians in Jerusalem's Old City say they are often harassed, spit on, and even physically attacked by religious Jewish youth.
I view this phenomenon as extreme and unacceptable in any shape or form. This phenomenon needs to be uprooted.
Earlier incidents include the desecration of a Protestant cemetery on Mount Zion, an attack on international Christians during a day of prayer for Jerusalem, and harassment at a Messianic concert in Jerusalem.
We must respect the members of all religions. We've committed to this since the dawn of our existence. This is the most basic commandment of love your neighbor as yourself.
Church leaders expressed their desire to work together with Israeli authorities.
We need to work together in order to encourage coexistence and solidarity between us, and the love between us, because we are brothers in the same state. We live in the same places, and we need to live together in quiet and peace.
Recently, Israeli Channel 13 reporter Yossi Eli went undercover as a priest for a day. Dressed in a robe, he walked through the Old City with Franciscan Father Alberto. In the first 5 minutes, he was spat at 5 times by Orthodox Jewish Israelis. In Haifa, Israel's police commissioner said the police are working to eradicate incidents and trends that affect the sense of security.
We're here to reassure you of that and to offer any assistance that may be required. As part of the cooperation between all the parties, we're working to bridge the gaps in places of conflict while simultaneously striving to provide the vital sense of security.
David Parsons from the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem says the attacks are coming from a fringe element.
Most Israelis welcome Christians here. They welcome Christian support, but there does seem to be whatever motivations are trying to harass and give trouble for Christians here.
He also says it's a learning curve for Israel right now.
Jewish people wouldn't tolerate these sorts of attacks against them. In other countries, they're very vocal about it, and they shouldn't tolerate it here when their own co-religionists carry out similar attacks against Christians.
Parsons told CBN News the scriptures are clear about how Christians should treat the Jewish people.
Scriptures are clear that Genesis 12:3 says we need to bless the Jewish people. Isaiah says comfort them. Paul in Romans 11 says show them mercy. So we have biblical commands to stand with Israel, support them. We're not going to condition that support on whether or not these attacks are stopping, but it does make it harder for us to build support and friendship for Israel out there.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Julie. And still ahead, a group of ocean explorers get a massive marine surprise. Finally tonight, it was a once-in-a-lifetime sight for a group of boaters off the coast of Massachusetts. Well, out on the water near Cape Cod, the group got an up-close look at a pod of humpback whales. At least 10 whales surrounded the boaters and began a feed frenzy known as bubble net feeding. The pod blows bubbles to trap schools of fish before breaching the surface of the water to nab their prey. What a sight. I think I'd be pretty scared to be on that boat, but that's very cool. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.